Silver price drops. Dealer says don't buy yet. Here's why. Silver price dropped this morning, and I immediately ran to my local coin shop. My dealer shocked me by throwing up his hands and saying, "Stop, do not buy yet." I'm going to break this down for you and show you why, even during this drop, it is not the time to buy. Now, an article came out about 2 hours ago, and this also echoes my dealer's sentiment, right? To hold off on this silver, even this junk silver that I'm holding up to your screen right there. This article says, silver price forecast, silver retreats from nearly 3-year high to below $28. Silver price loses momentum this morning, and it trades with mild losses around $27 after retracing from the fresh 3-year high of $28.50 during the early European session on Thursday. The lower speculation that the Fed will cut the interest rate in June drags the gray metal lower. Investors await the U.S. March Producer Price Index on Thursday for fresh impetus. Now, these CPI results that came in, and this is what this article gets into, has everybody feeling like rates are going to remain stagnant. We have to combine that with what happens on a local level, and this is what my dealer is feeling, and that is that silver will absolutely correct itself, and it will drop lower. So just because we get a little dip, it doesn't mean that it's time to run in and jump in on picking up even junk silver, picking up, it's not the time to buy. I really like this coin shop that I go to, this local coin shop. Unfortunately, he does not ever want to be recorded or be interviewed. He has no interest on being on YouTube. He's a little skeptical. So unfortunately, I can't make a video about him. But he's very honest with me. He tells me, how often do you have any business person who has you come into their shop and they say, no, don't buy this? He's just, maybe because I've gone there for quite a few years and he trusts me. He knows I'm going to come back, I think is what it really is. He knows that even if he tells me this is not the time, don't buy yet, he knows I will wait and I'll come back. And I think that that's what a lot of us feel when we see silver being so strong, $28, we're loving it, and then we get a little dip and we feel like, oh, it's go time. So what he's saying is it's not go time. Let me tell you what this article says. This article says traders slashed bets on Fed interest rate cuts on Wednesday after U.S. inflation was hotter than expectations. And U.S. President Joe Biden acknowledged that there was more work to be done to combat rising prices. The CPI, the U.S. Consumer Price Index report in March, suggested that the path of easing inflation remains extremely bumpy. Not really exactly what we wanted to see, extremely bumpy. And the U.S. Central Bank is likely to maintain the higher for longer rate narrative. And that means that silver has quite a struggle going forward, more than we thought. What it really shows us is that as we're in April now, and this is real estate time, typically this is when people start buying up houses. This is like real estate season. But rates are still high and mortgage rates are really high. And the choices for swapping our fiat currency into a physical asset, the choices are real estate or this silver here that I'm holding in these tubes, right? These junk silver or like generic silver, not so much these proof coins that I just like to show on camera because they look great on camera, but like generic rounds, bars, that's what people go into, or they go into real estate, and no one is going into real estate with a 7% mortgage rate. That is just massive. Can you imagine signing on for a 30-year at 7%? It's those of us who were lucky enough to buy a house back when you could get a mortgage at a nice low, like 3, even under 3%. That's what you want. 7 is just unimaginable. I can't even imagine it. So this article echoes the same sentiment. This article says This might limit the upside of silver as the gray metal becomes less attractive compared to interest-bearing assets. Fed funds futures market pushed expectations for the first rate cut from June to September now, right? Thinking like, really, it's not going to be June. It most likely will be September. And from my experience in this silver game, I've been in this game for years. By the way, if this video, if you like this video, please hit the like button. It helps a lot. Hit subscribe. It all helps to get this information out there. Now, I see September makes more sense to me. I mean, June is going to be here. We're going to blink our eyes, and it's going to be June. And the way these reports are coming, the economic data that we've got in the past couple of weeks, it's not really supporting what the Fed's goal of cutting in June. And I'm not alone. Other countries, other central banks are echoing the same thing. Everyone has the U.S. under a microscope. Typically, it's the U.S. that leads with these rate cuts, and other countries, other Western countries follow. So we are under a microscope, and we are trying to pull off this quantitative easing, quantitative tightening, soft landing. This is the first time that this has ever been pulled off at such a massive level and at such a fast pace. Having an interest rate cycle like this at such a fast pace, it's the first time that this has ever really been pulled off. So it's got to be done right. And let me just continue. Before I give you my opinion, let me continue with the article. This article says, on the other hand, rising industrial demand and its attraction to an alternative inflation hedge might cap the downside of silver prices. Now, the hope here, in plain English, is what this article is saying, is that the rising industrial demand, which we do see for silver, we absolutely see rising demand for solar panels and for electric vehicles, EV, right? We see a large demand. That is just going to increase with this green revolution. It's not going away. But will that, I guess what this article is really trying to ask is that, will that demand be enough to bring silver up? And what I see and what my local coin shop, right, what my local dealer said this morning as I walked in there, and he put his hands up saying, turn around. Don't, wait for silver to correct, wait for it to level out, wait for it to be, stagnant the way it's been. That is really what it looks like we're going to be seeing. So I don't see this demand for the industrial use really impacting the spot price that we live and breathe by. I agree with my local coin shop dealer where he says that we're going to see a correction. It might be next week, maybe the week after, but silver will correct itself. It will come down, and it's got to correct itself for a few days. I see it coming back down to more like $25, $26, hovering around there, and then holding there, because that's when you really go in, and that's when you could jump in. For me, this is my opinion. I'm not a financial advisor. This is my opinion. That's when I want to jump in and get myself, working more on my tubes, getting some bars, getting some more generic silver. When it's really stagnant and not fluctuating or on an upswing like it's been. And I see that coming. I absolutely see most likely next week, maybe the week after, this upswing will be over and we'll get a correction. And that is the time where you go in. So I agree with my local coin shop guy who says stop. Do not